I was super excited when a few of my followers on Instagram told me, "Hey, you should reach out to this guy Zaid. He has a love for the sun like you do." I feel like nowadays there aren't too many people out there that are really promoting this idea of being out in the sun, really taking the time to build that relationship with the sun when it's demonized so often and is basically told that, the main form of skin cancer is due to sun exposure and UV exposure. But before we go into really discussing, the benefits of sunlight and your thoughts on it, I wanted to get your story because you really came into the health world because of your own kind of tragic loss and trauma in life. So can you go into that a little bit and tell us about how you got started into the health world?
Yeah, sure thing. So I come from a more unconventional background, let's say, compared to a lot of people in the health space, especially when you consider like going to educational or conventional education and all that stuff. I was always an athlete at heart. I played competitive soccer since I was 4. I pursued that for about like 20, 22 years. So a long time, which led me into this natural interest within the health realm, of course, because if you have to perform on the field, you have to have a healthy body and you have to make sure that everything's going well. So, that planted a little seed in my mind. And then when I was 18 in England pursuing professional soccer, because that was my goal, I wanted to play professionally. My father experienced his second heart attack within the span of a year, and that led him into a coma, which eventually led to his passing, myocardial infarction, which is extremely common. And that's what really kicked me in the ass, so to speak, to really become obsessed with this realm, because I wanted to figure out like what was the actual cause of heart disease specifically. And then that led me off into a whole bunch of different subjects, more specifically within the past year and a half or so: circadian biology, circadian rhythms, sunlight, artificial light, evolutionary biology. So, I've been bitten by the bug, so to speak, and I am truly obsessed. Like every waking hour that I have is an opportunity for me to study this game. And that's allowed me to help other gentlemen, other people, and really become an educator in the field.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you've turned a lot of this towards men's health, right? And I do feel like that is an area. Listen, I'm in the integrative medicine field, also health and wellness, and I find a lot of people in general with a proclivity or more of the passion towards it are women or females.
Hmm.
And a lot of men kind of shun these ideas of going beyond maybe the gym, to as their health or eating a lot of steak and things like that in the carnivore diet. But really do not address what health is as a whole, which is also your emotions, your psychological state, spiritual purpose, all of these things. So, why did you mainly focus on the men's health aspect to it?
I would say just because, I'm a man myself, so I understand how men think. I've seen the level of dysfunction within the male demographic in society, and it's really striking to me because I feel like a lot of guys have this like brute force caveman approach to overall health. Like you said, eating a lot of steak, going to the gym. These are like basic foundations, but it doesn't go deep enough for my liking. So I've really just gravitated towards that demographic specifically. But the good thing is that a lot of these timeless principles around biology apply to women as well. So if you're a human being, this stuff applies to you. But yeah, I think generally I understand how men think more often than not, and it just puts me in a position to allow myself to help them in an even better way.
What are the biggest challenges you're finding when you deal with men? Is it the resistance to kind of change, to open-mindedness? What do you feel is the kind of biggest setback for men to really embracing a healthy lifestyle?
I think there's an element of pride involved with a lot of men. They're not willing to seek for help. They're not willing to admit that they're not taking the right approach to certain things within their health. But then I think it applies broadly to the human species. I mean, we don't have at least in my opinion, I don't see a lot of people having the level of curiosity that's needed in order to solve a lot of things around the health discussion. And so I don't even think it's like a male centric or I don't even think it applies to gender. I just think it's a human problem. Just the idea that we already understand certain things and we're not willing to go into different realms to figure out the truth.
And it's really interesting as well because I find a lot of people just don't want to do the research and like you said, don't have the curiosity anymore especially when it comes to something like health, they wanna outsource that completely. And if
Mhm.
there's one thing you probably shouldn't really outsource, it's your health. It's the thing that, keeps you alive and humming and productive and feeling well. I mean, where do you think that came from? Where did that shift? Is that part of the loss of kind of biorhythms, purpose, and our connection with nature that led us to sort of this, well, whatever, I'll just take a pill for it, stay indoors all the time, watch Netflix, and just doom scroll forever on Instagram? Like, is that what you feel is at the core of these sort of this tectonic shift into everyone sort of outsourcing their health now?
I think it is. Yeah, I think when you consider the advent of technology, when you consider the authority figures in the space that want to hand out recommendations to make it easier for people to not think about these things, when you think about just human nature in general, I think I mean, we are a pretty productive species, but there's an aspect to us that's very lazy as well. So I think all of these things coalesce into one framework and really one societal foundation that allows us to be lazy. I mean, I can go on my phone and order Uber Eats from somewhere 20 miles away, and it'll be here in like 50 minutes to an hour. So I think it's just catering to our inherent laziness as a species.
Yeah, and I think part of that laziness has also led us to stay indoors much, much longer, right? We don't walk as much, we don't go outside as much. I mean, I find myself oftentimes at fault if I unless I catch myself and actually put it in my calendar that, you could easily sit indoors 8 hours and just knock it out, and then you don't even realize you haven't stood up in so long.